ice cream, ice cream.
Is that what you used to shout in the summertime?
Yeah, get your ice cream here.
Why would you say it that way? Is that because Uncle Andrew was Italian?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that was more of an imitation of Uncle Andrew. So what many people may not know is that when Russ was younger, his Uncle Andrew actually owned an ice cream company with ice cream vans, or as we call them here, ice cream trucks. And one of his first like real jobs, actually, because you worked all day long, 8-10 hours a day.
I did.
In the summers, was to help your Uncle Andrew sell ice cream in London.
Yeah. Yeah.
In like the outer edges of London. So, but today what we are talking about is not ice cream in London, although he does think he knows ice cream superb because of doing that job. And don't even get him started talking about...
His ice cream was the best.
Yeah, and don't even get him started talking about the lemon ice. We're not going to go there today. But today what we did do is we evaluated ice cream shops here in Racine, and we had a special guest along with us to evaluate them.
We did.
She won't be on camera with us today, but she did help us evaluate, and it really gave us a different perspective. So we're going to tell you about where they ranked and what kind of point system they got right after this.
Yeah. Here we go.
Welcome back. So if you do find any value in this content, and who wouldn't find value from ice cream, do us a favor, click like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any of our other content. And let's get into this ice cream thing. So first of all, we set out to evaluate 4 local ice cream shops, and here was part of our criteria. We did not go to places like Dairy Queen or Culver's or any of the chains. We wanted to hit local ice cream shops that are local ice cream. And we set out to do 4 of them. Now we actually did this evaluation in March, and the problem is that we set out for 4 of them, and Google said all 4 of these were open. We got in the car, we headed out, and when we got to number 3, it was not open. It's only seasonal. Now, we had not been there before because it is on the north side, and so we're not trying to trash them in any way, but the reason we did not evaluate them is because they were not open in March. They closed seasonally in October, and it didn't have any sign even saying when they open. It just said in the spring. So we couldn't even say, okay, we'll come back next week, or, you know, maybe they open early April.
Yeah.
We were like, nope, sorry, you don't even want to tell us when you're open. You didn't update your Google, and that would be Scoops on the north side, Skoops, that version of Scoops. So they were not open, so unfortunately we were not able to evaluate them. So do not hate on us if they didn't make this top 3 list of places we went to, because we tried to make it a top 4 list, but they weren't open. So we did do, however, survey forms. And what you can see right here, you can see a picture of what survey form we did. We each took these forms, we filled them out independent of each other, and assigned points to each category. So very bad was 1 point. Good news is none of the places we went got a 1 rating for anything, which is awesome, for them at least. And we gave 5 points for excellent. And we'll give you the point totals at the end. But first of all, let's talk about each of the places we went and what we liked about them. So what are we starting with, Russ?
So we're starting at the Sugar Shack.
Yeah, because that was the first one that we went to. So the other thing about this was me and my niece, Kate, is the one who did this with us. She's young adult, 18 years old. She's more in tune with the young vibe. And we thought, oh, this will be a lot of fun. She was staying with us at the time. And we thought this will be a great thing for her to be able to have fun doing with us. Yeah. And so we went to the Sugar Shack, and what we asked each place was we asked them to give us their most popular flavor, or what they sell the most of, or what they thought was the best indication of who they were. Yeah. And Sugar Shack gave us Superman. That's their top selling flavor. Now, I don't know if I've had Superman before or not, but when we got back to the car, first of all, it's extremely colorful. I'm not big on dyes. I really don't. I think that if you're going to have a really good ice cream, it doesn't have to be like really colorful. It should be really flavorful, but maybe that's because I'm old. Kate did say that it was the right colors. It had all the right colors. It had the yellows and the blues and the purples and everything. But what I don't like is that I guess I kind of equate it to like having a sherbet. When you have sherbet and you have a multicolored sherbet, you have multi flavors, so to
Yeah.
speak. And what I didn't like about Superman is I couldn't really distinguish
There wasn't a really distinct flavour.
of any kind.
I felt there was a slight taste of bubble gum,
Yeah.
but
It was like mild
That
bubble
was-
gum, though. It was like
yeah,
it wasn't
very
like a
mild.
good version of bubble gum. It
No.
was like we did not rate Russ and I did not rate the flavor very well. And even Kate, who does like Superman flavor generally, she did not give that a 5. So
No.
none of us gave the flavor a 5.
so one of our categories was flavour accuracy.
yes.
And so we weren't really able to get an accurate flavour because we didn't know what flavour, because it was called Superman.
Well, but it's not just that. It's just it doesn't have any kind of a distinctive flavor. And
No.
even Kate said it wasn't like it was like strong on any flavor.
No.
It wasn't like what she would expect from a Superman ice cream cone. So we kind of leaned on her a bit with that. But we just felt like it didn't have any like good flavor. It just was like, ugh. It was like, honestly, and the texture of it reminded me of Play-Doh. Didn't I say that? I was like,
Yeah, you did.
This looks like Play-Doh. This is
That's
really
what
weird.
it looked like. Yeah.
It actually
Yeah.
looked like Play-Doh. One of the other things,
The one good thing from Sugar Shack is they do have the most flavours.
yes, they had the most variety of flavors, and that is one thing we evaluated each place on,
Yeah.
was what is their variety, and they did get top marks for variety, for sure.
Yeah, they had 29 different flavours
Yep.
available.
Right. And that, of course, doesn't even count their candies, their toppings, and et cetera, et cetera.
Uh-huh.
And that was another category, was how many different toppings do they have available, which they had the most available.
They also came out top on that. They had 23 toppings.
Yeah, they had 23 different toppings, which is pretty close. Although another one we evaluated had pretty much the same.
Yeah.
It just, they didn't have a big board with all of them listed, but we could see the toppings. They were on display, and so we just counted them ourselves. And there were some that we think were not on display because they didn't have any of their like hot fudge, or like, because all of these places make sundaes as well, and other things. So we didn't even see any of the hot or the syrupy type things.
Yeah.
So we know that one of the other places probably had about as many as well. But what were some of the other things? So cone crunchiness. Now this was a positive for Sugar Shack.
Yes, so they did score highly. They got a good for
Cone crispiness.
cone crispiness.
Yeah, they definitely got the best rating for cone crispiness, and that is partly down to the fact that they don't charge extra to have a sugar cone. You can either get a cake cone, you can get a sugar cone, or you can get a dish. Any of those three methods of putting ice cream in, and there's no change in the price. The other positive thing about their price is that if you pay cash, you get a 10% discount,
Yes.
which is nice. Because that's not just like,
That was the only one that did that.
that was the only one that did that, because we paid cash at every single one of these, and we
Yeah.
were not offered a cheaper price at the other
No.
two that we did end up going
So
to.
they was $4.50
Yep.
for an ice cream, or $4.05 if you paid cash.
Yep. So we paid $4.05 for paying cash,
Yep.
and we just bought one ice cream cone at each place, because after all, there were 3 of us, and we were planning to go to 4 places, so we thought that would be plenty of ice cream.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, and we did get just a single scoop at each place that we went to.
Yep.
But one of the things that disappointed me at Sugar Shack is, and maybe this is again old fashioned, but Kate thought it was a bad thing as well, and she's much younger, the fact that they didn't fill down in the cone.
No.
And she mentioned that when she was in, she has actually traveled overseas some, and last summer she was in the Czech Republic, and she was in Prague and different places, and she said there, they don't put any ice cream down in the cone at all. It was like, it's all just on top. And she found that to be really weird. Well, to be honest, there really wasn't hardly any down in the cone. Like, it wasn't like they tried to put it down in the cone and
It
pack
was
the
all
cone.
on the surface, on the
Yeah,
top.
it was like there was enough. It was like maybe a little bit down in the cone, like maybe a half of an inch, just to help secure the ball on top. And it
Yeah.
was a decent sized scoop for a single.
Yeah.
But it was like there was none of it in the cone. So it was a little bit insecure, because what we had done was we brought it, Kate and I went in, we ordered, we'd get the cone, and then we'd leave with it. And we'd go out to the car to Russ, because he'd be sitting there with the engine idling. And we had spoons in the car, and we would like dig into the cone, each of us, with a spoon. So we weren't like being really contaminating, although of course we're putting the same spoons back in. But anyway, we're not going to go into that. We're all family. So, but we used spoons to each taste it, and it was really hard because the top was because there wasn't anything securing it in the cone, the top was a little wobbly.
Yeah.
And so it was difficult. And I think it'd be the same if you were biting into it. You'd have to like press it into the cone while you were biting. Otherwise it would have been like,
it would have fallen off.
it would have fallen off.
Yeah.
And that is the real reason that you put ice cream down in a cone. It's not for
to
giving you
lock
more.
it in.
It's to lock it in and make it secure. So I
Yes,
think
it
some of
is.
them do it to be cheap. They just don't stuff the cone, but they don't
So
realize.
if you don't know where the Sugar Shack is, it's
Yeah.
on
On
by
Monument Square.
Monument Square,
Yep.
right near Maple Table and
Yep.
that, and it's just there, so easy to get to.
Yep.
Down Main Street.
Yep.
So where did we go after that?
So after that, we stayed on Main Street and we went to Divina Gelato.
Yeah, Divina Gelato.
Which had a lot of really high ratings. We had talked many, many times before about going there, and it just never worked out convenience-wise timing
Yeah.
for us. And so we were like, we were really looking forward to it because it's got some really great, like we at our marina, the other boat owners there, they used to say, "Oh, it's so nice, it's so nice, it's this and that." Like we
Yeah.
got rave reviews from visitors from out of town to go there and things, and so we thought, okay, this is good.
So yeah, we was quite excited to taste
We were.
their ice creams.
And we were not quite excited when we left. So first things first, there's only one person working at a time, which I get it. We were there
It's not
during
the
off
hot
season.
heat
It's
of
not
summer
right, not the
or
heat of summer.
anything.
I'm sure they have more staff. However, when he came out, he seemed surprised to see us standing there, and it wasn't just us. There was somebody else who came in after us, which tells me that they don't have a bell or something in the back. I don't mind that he was in the back working on something.
Yeah.
Because that's being efficient and that's good. But he looked like, oh, there's somebody out here. Like he had no idea. There was no buzzer to buzz in the back so you could let them know that you were there. There is a little sign that says, hey, if we're not out here, it's because we're on our 10-minute break, mandatory 10-minute break, or we are cleaning in the back, or we are doing this. So like it was like a list of like 4 things that they might be doing as the reason they're not at the counter. I can totally accept all those reasons, but the fact that he was surprised.
You'd think they'd have a bell on the door, so when anybody opens the
Yes.
door, it rings it.
Yes. However, he was very good. He was a very good, he did just fine for us as far as taking care of us in some ways.
Yeah.
But he was a little confused because when I came in, I said, well, we asked the same question, which is your most popular, or what do you guys sell the most of? And he was like, well, pistachio, or what was the other one that Kate said that she would have liked?
Peanut butter.
Oh yeah, peanut butter. That's right. I forgot. How could I forget that?
Yeah.
Kate is obsessed with peanut butter in general. She just absolutely adores it. He's like, well, peanut butter, or maybe pistachio, or birthday cake. And I'm like, well, you pick which one you think is the most popular or whatever. And he chose birthday cake.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that was a bit of a mistake, unless, of course, peanut butter and pistachio are equally not so good, which is always possible. So what was some of the problems that we found with birthday cake?
So the flavour was okay.
Ish.
There was
The birthday
a
cake
slight
flavor was
flavour
not,
of
yeah, it was like you had
birthday
the,
cake dough, like the
yeah, the flavor of birthday cake dough, which is what birthday
Yeah.
cake flavor is supposed to be, but it wasn't a really strong, definite birthday cake flavor. It was a little bit like
No.
on the mild side, kind of like Superman tasting a little bit like bubblegum, but not. That's kind of what birthday cake was. But worse than that is that you have experience with gelato.
I do. A lot of experience. You know, I used to spend 6 weeks
With
our
Uncle
summer
Andrew.
holidays on ice cream vans, making ice cream
And gelato.
and selling it. And, you know, it was, it wasn't very good.
Well, how
It
should gelato look? Like, what should it be? It should be very creamy,
Creamy, very creamy. It should be very smooth.
right?
It shouldn't have ice crystals in it.
I was gonna get to that.
It shouldn't be grainy at all.
Yep. It should be harder than what we experienced.
Yes.
It should be more scoopable like ice cream.
Yeah.
Even though it's gelato, it is actually still supposed to be firm. Some people in America think that gelato is supposed to be
soft scoop.
really like a soft serve, but this was, or even worse, but this was even worse than a soft serve in that it was melting. It was like 50 degrees, 45 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And so this is not the heat of summer when we're tasting these. We step outside and it's already melting like nobody's business. Like it's running down the cone. And unfortunately, Russ was like circling the block because there was no parking places.
There wasn't any parking directly outside the store. So,
Right. Which happens a lot when you're in downtown Racine, because this is
Yeah.
right on Main Street. So Russ was like circling the block. So the worst part was we're sitting there with this melty cone and we're like, where's Russ? We can't find him anywhere. Kate had to call you on her phone because I had unfortunately left my phone in the car. And he's circling the block and took him forever to get back to us. But in the meantime, it's only 50 degrees outside and this cone is melting like crazy.
Yeah.
In fact, so much so that I had to take my finger and wipe it in order to stop it from going everywhere before we got in the car. Both Kate and I did it on either side. So we got a taste of it before we even got in the car just because we had to. I mean, I'm not going to waste it.
Yeah, so this store had 17 flavors.
Yep, they had a good variety of flavors, which was good.
Price was a bit dearer than Sugar Shack.
Price
at
was more
$5.51.
expensive, way more expensive.
So that was the most expensive one.
The most expensive
Yeah.
and the not as good ice cream.
No, it had ice crystals in it, and it tasted slightly grainy.
It did have one of the higher cleanliness marks, though. It was nice and clean.
Yes, it did. The store was nice
Sugar
and
Shack
clean.
actually received a bit of a knock on cleanliness, and I think that had more to do with the age inside.
Yeah.
Like it needs a paint job. It needs a refresh. Not because I think it wasn't clean, but it just didn't feel clean or it didn't have that bright atmosphere. Whereas Divina Gelato did score high on marks for cleanliness. So that was pretty good.
Yeah.
What else did they do that was good? There wasn't a whole lot, unfortunately, because it had actual little ice crystals in it. Not just the sprinkles. The sprinkles were different. These were ice crystals, which, Russ, what did you say causes that?
It's when you refreeze.
Yeah, it's when it melts and then you refreeze it.
Yeah.
And what basically happens is it separates, and that's how you get ice crystals.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, it might look really fancy, but if they're refreezing what's melting and they're not taking care of it,
Their
then,
refrigeration at the front is probably not cold enough
yeah, probably not
to keep it
completely
state.
frozen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it had ice crystals in it. The flavor was not like a really definite, birthday cake flavor. It was birthday cake, but it wasn't a nice strong, oh, this is really delicious. This is just like birthday cake should be. Had the ice crystals, had what else did we mark them down on? What was the second
We
line?
marked them down on the cold factor.
Well, the
because
meltiness.
they
Oh my
was
goodness, it
melting.
melted so fast.
So they got a bad on that, a number. They got a 2 for
They got
that.
a 2 point something for that.
Size, they got a 3.
That was another place where they did not, even though it was melting, it was literally on top of the ice cream cone.
Yeah.
It was balanced like nobody's business, and it was melting, and it wasn't melting into the cone. It was melting outside the cone.
Yeah.
So it lost some on cone crispiness because the melt to it turned that cone, it was a regular cake cone, turned it to mush almost instantly.
And they got marked down on, obviously, for the ice crystals, the texture.
Yep.
And also the toppings was...
They had a
they
really
got-
limited amount of toppings. Very few toppings that were on display or that you knew what you could put on. Certainly not ease of being able to find the toppings. So they had the least amount of ice cream flavors or gelato flavors, and they had bad texture ice crystal. It was not good, and we were really disappointed.
Yeah, we was, because
But I
we've
will
heard
say,
such good things about the store.
the guy who was working there was a nice guy. But he also, when he scooped the single scoop for me, he turned to me and he said, "Is that good? Does that look good?" Like as if I was supposed to determine the size. And I'm like, whatever is a single scoop is fine. And he then put a little bit more on, but it was really bizarre to have the employee ask me what the size should be.
Yeah.
So he seemed a little, I don't know, that he was nice, but a little bit clueless.
But didn't really know what he was doing.
No, didn't seem to really know what he was doing. But he was nice. He just wasn't what you'd really want as your representative for maybe for selling your ice cream and for really getting it across to the public, for sure. So then the third place we tried to go to, as we said, was Scoops on Douglas, and they were not open. We pulled up and it was like, okay, this isn't looking good. And there were no lights on and the sign on the door. So we were like, this is disappointing. Yeah, but then we went on to what was fourth, but of course now it's just a third, which was Everly's, which on the map, it shows it as behind the BP, but it's actually part of the BP gas station.
Yeah,
it's like attached.
Set aside.
Yep, it's attached to the side. And Everly's was a nice little surprise because we don't go up on the north side for stuff like this. So first of all, when we walked in, it was really bright and attractive, quite clean looking, which was nice because it was the one that got the top marks on cleanliness for all of them. It was bright. It was colorful. It was what you would expect when you walk into a ice cream shop in a lot of ways. In that, you'll see some of the photos that we're putting up here. You'll see they had a nice display of their various cone options. They also do something that we didn't tell you about. You can either get it in a cone, or if you get it in a dish, you actually get a topping on it as well.
Ooh.
Yeah, so if we had gotten a dish instead, but since we were rating cone crispiness, we had to get a cone. They
also do the dishes that you can eat.
Yes, they actually have these really cool looking, it looks like a chocolate waffle cone dish type thing that is like edible. So that was pretty cool.
The people in the car next to us.
Yeah. Russ was, while we were in getting the cone that we got, Russ was sitting in the car envying the guy in the car next to us who brought out a dish for him and his girlfriend or whatever that was with them.
Each.
Oh, they each had one. Right. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So they looked pretty good size. I don't think we'd have one each. I think we'd split one if we had it. But Everly's was really a nice surprise.
It was.
It's kind of tucked away.
There again.
I would purposefully go back there, and we live on the south side of Racine. I would purposefully go to Everly's any day of the week.
It's a place I would go out of the way for.
Absolutely. I would go out of the way for it. It was that good. So what was the flavor that we got there?
Cookie Monster.
Yes. So that was the other thing, was the flavor that they chose to give us as their representative was Cookie Monster, and it was delicious.
It was, yeah.
It was creamy.
It's cookie dough with Oreos. Busted up.
Yep. So it's like Oreo. It's like Oreo cookie with cookie dough added. That's Cookie Monster.
Yeah.
And it tasted like Oreos. It tasted like cookie dough.
Yes,
it tasted like the flavor that it was meant to be.
Yeah.
So it got high marks for that. It was also, out of all three of them, it was the creamiest of the ice creams.
Yeah, it was really nice. And they filled it down the cone.
So that was the other thing that I was waiting for. I didn't know if you were going to mention it or me. They filled to the bottom of the cone. It was packed. So when we got down to the cone level, I'm like, all right, let's see because we didn't watch them when they were filling it too much. Oh, and I will say it was hard for her because Cookie Monster, they didn't have a whole lot of it left. And so she was scraping like all the edges in the bottom to get it out. So it was a little bit harder for her to even pack a scoop together. So the fact that she was able to pack it down in she went the extra mile for sure. And again, they don't know that we're evaluating them. What we did was we let them know at the end, once we got our cone.
Dished it up.
Once we got our cone, once we dished it up, then we gave them the card with the notation that they'd just been reviewed by Living in Racine channel. And we asked them to give it to their owners. And they were like, at Everly's, they were like, do you want us to put that on the board over here? Like as if I was advertising my business. I said, no, this is for your owner. Because on the back of it, we write something like, if you would like details or you want to know how you got, like what your rating was, email me. That's what it says on the back of the card. So, and it's basically my business card, but we write a special note on the back of it
we give out details
to the owner
of the channel on there.
Yes, and we tell the owner who the channel is and etc. So, but it's my real estate business card.
So they can watch us.
Yeah, so they can either watch it or they can contact us. So if they want to offer a coupon or anything like that, or get any more details on what we do, they can reach out to us. All the business owners we do that with, we leave a card. If we review you, and you see our review and you didn't get a card, then talk to your employees.
Yes.
Because we give a card
we
every
always
place
leave one.
And it has our details and it has why we're there. So Every time, make sure you ask if you get reviewed by us and you didn't see a card or didn't know anything about it. That's down to your employees.
So, ironically, we really liked Everly's, as you can tell.
Yes.
They were the cheapest.
Well, that was the other thing that we really liked. They were far and above the cheapest. First of all, you can get a soft serve cone there for $2.50.
Wow.
They had soft serve and hand dipped, hand
Yeah,
scooped.
and the hand scooped one was $3.50.
Yeah.
So
and,
really, really good.
Okay, and variety of toppings. They had a lot of variety of toppings.
Yeah. So
Remember what I said about how when you walk in, you feel like you're in an ice cream shop? It's because even their toppings were on display, like all the colorful jimmies and nuts and all these colorful, like, gummy bears and all of these different things. They had them in these plastic boxes so you could see them. I can tell you as parents, if you don't want your kids to ask for toppings on their cones, don't go there. Because trust me, your kids will be asking for but if you want a great ice cream, which you should, then you definitely should go there because Everly's was awesome.
They had fruit as well because I noticed
they
the guy
did
next to me in the
Yep,
car.
and they didn't even have that
fruit.
on display. That's at the back. So we counted 17 on display at the front, and we knew they also had hot fudge and etc. So the amount of toppings.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing on their toppings that I think we told you. So at Sugar Shack, most of their toppings were $1 extra or more. In fact, nuts. If you want nuts other than like just a peanutty type of thing, like what they called a sundae, they called a sundae nut, which means I don't even know if that's peanuts or what it is. It's a mixture or something. I don't know, but that was $1. But if you wanted pecans or cashews, that's what it was. Pecans or cashews, $1.50 for a little topping of that. Whoa! The only thing they had that was 25 cents was a cherry.
Yeah.
And personally, if you get a sundae, I think a cherry should come with it.
I think it should come with
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
But if you want a cherry or you want whipped cream was 50 cents, cherry was 25. Whereas at Everly's, all the toppings, 50 cents. So they might just limit.
Really good value as well.
Really good value. So for $4, you could have ice cream in a dish. Oh, and that's the other thing, that with the one topping that you get, you can have either a cone or the dish with one topping anyway. So if your kid does like toppings and you want to avoid the mess of a cone, because kids and cones, they don't always go nice and neat and tidy. No. And I believe their waffle cones were only $1 upcharge, not sugar cones, a full-on waffle cone. I think it was only $1 upcharge for that, if I remember correctly. We'll put it up here. You can see it because they had a display of their various types of cones, which was also very cool. So the staff was really friendly, young girls. One of them was clearly new. She got very confused, but the other girl was helping her, so that's okay. They were friendly. They were nice. It was clean. It was tidy.
Great price, great flavor.
Great price, great flavor, great.
It actually scored the highest overall on all categories, and we had 11 categories.
So we had 11 categories, and that means that the maximum points somebody can have
is 55.
55, because you could get 5 for every single one of them.
We done it from 1 to 5.
And then we did it in
1 being bad or very bad and 5 being excellent.
Yep. And we did also give partial points to things. So for example, if Kate and I thought it should get a 3 and Russ thought it should get a 4, then they would have gotten a 3.3.
Yeah.
So because it would have been our 3s plus your 4 would have been a third of the 4. So we did give them 0.3s or 0.6s on everything, and we added them all up, and then we did round up because 2 of them came in at 0.8 and 0.9. So we just rounded them up to the nearest number, and so that we got whole numbers. So let's start with what we ranked as the worst out of 55.
Okay, so
I think you guys probably know.
Out of 55 was...
You don't know which one was the worst right off the bat?
The Vina Gelato.
Yes. And how many points did they get out of 55?
They scored 34 out of 55.
34 out of 55. That's unfortunate for them. That's just, they were that disappointing. And it wasn't just because our expectations were high either, because I had never been to I actually had never been to any of these 3 places before we did this. So it was a complete whatever. So what was the second?
You can see our scores. So,
yep, you can see the scores came out at 34 out of 55. So, what did Sugar Shack get?
Sugar Shack, they got remarkably better. They got 45 out of 55.
That's still a really good score, because that really means 45 out of 55 means they only lost 1 point in 10 of the 11 categories.
Yeah.
Overall. So that means that they came in as good overall.
They didn't score any bads or any very bads. They got some neutrals, some goods, and some excellent.
Yes, exactly. They got a lot of excellence, and so they came in at a 4. Like basically, that would be like a 4.5 out of 5.5 range. So they came in really high. 45 out of 55 is still a very decent.
Yeah,
very, very decent. But they didn't pack the cone.
Yeah.
And the Superman flavor was just like, it didn't taste really much like anything.
No.
But then, of course, our top mark now, as you know already, our top mark goes to Everly's, which is on the north side, up by the BP on Middle Road and 6 Mile.
An amazing score.
Hold on, before we give Everly's score, we should mention where they are, which is in the BP that's on the corner of Middle Road or Lamberton. Is it on the other side?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you go up Middle Road to 6 Mile Road, you go up those, right on that corner, there's a BP gas station there, and they are in the little corner. They're like in the corner of the BP gas station.
They are.
And the fact that we were there on a weekday night, it was not even a weekend, in off season, the fact that there was somebody else there getting ice cream is even kind of amazing.
Well, there were several, because someone else pulled up.
Yes, someone else pulled up while we were there, and we were there about 5:30, so it wasn't even like a normal time that you would be going to get ice cream.
And they're open until 8 o'clock, I think.
Yes, they were open till 8.
They're open later than the other two as well.
Yep, Scoops, if they had been open, also is open till 8.
Yeah.
So, but I've honestly...
But Sugar Shack was open till 5. And Davina Gelato
till
was
6.
open till 6.
Sugar Shack was open till 6.
Was
Davina Gelato was open till 7.
Right.
But Everly's, you want to give their score? Give them a roundup. It's an amazing score, to be honest.
If I had a drum, I'd give them a drum roll. There we go. They got an amazing 53 out of 55.
It was that good, folks. And this is completely independent.
Good.
You need to understand, we did not discuss what our points would be as we were marking them on the sheet.
They got 5s almost straight across the board on all 11 factors. There was only 4 where they dropped
a little.
A point, a fraction of
a point, yes.
Which put them in the 4.3s or the 4.6s.
Yep. So every single category, they either had good or excellent.
Yeah.
They either scored a 4 or a 5 overall in every single category.
Yeah.
And
so our recommendation is Everly's
up on 6 Mile Road.
Yeah.
They were amazing. The girls were really helpful. They were really nice. They had a great product. They do have soft serve as well, which is also nice, having soft serve and the hand scoop stuff. And there was no price difference, or there's a little price difference, but it was a discounted price for the soft serve.
Yeah,
so,
texture was excellent.
Yep.
The price was excellent. The size was excellent because they filled it
experience.
Right the way down the cone. It was cold.
That's what we should do. We should add a gift card to Everly's to our family experience, our premier family experience package.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that might be a good idea.
Good idea.
Might have to do that. We have a family premier experience package for our real estate. I would have no problems getting a gift card for a family to be able to go to Everly's.
Yeah.
To help celebrate once they've bought a new home. That would be an amazing thing to be able to do. So
yeah.
And I don't even care where you buy in the Racine, Kenosha, Mount Pleasant
area. Did they have
area.
tables in there as well so you could eat inside? I think they did.
I think they had a couple.
On the side.
And I think in the summertime they probably put a couple out on the sidewalk there too.
Yeah.
To be honest, I was so focused and so enjoying the atmosphere, I didn't even pay attention to whether they had tables.
But it looked really nice and clean inside.
It was, and it was bright.
I could see right through the window, so I was looking through the front door.
Yeah.
To the place, and
to be honest, even if
amazing.
you can't sit down inside much, I mean, there was definitely places that you could sit in your car and enjoy it, and the atmosphere of going in there would be really, really cool. It'd be a lot of fun. So Everly's is our top pick for top ice cream in Racine, and if you haven't, obviously it's technically Caledonia, but that's right, the Racine area. If you have not been to Everly's, absolutely go. Tell them that you heard about them on the Living in Racine channel. Let them know that they got some good cred from us. I'm actually hoping that the owner does reach out because we did just do this like a couple of days before we taped this. So they may not have even seen the card yet or even recognized what it was or contacted us. So so that's where we are. that was our evaluation.
Maybe we can contact them and let them know how
Absolutely.
highly they scored.
Absolutely.
Because
And
that would be good for their staff as well.
it'd be good for their staff to know. It'd be good for their business
Yeah.
to get some. But let them know that you heard about them at Living in Racine, so that they know where people are coming from. If you haven't been there before, if you have been there before, tell them. We let them know. So
Yeah,
we
we're
put them out.
recommending them.
Absolutely.
So if you got value from this content, don't forget, click like, subscribe, and turn that notification bell on so you don't miss any of our content.
And if you think that we've missed a great ice cream place in the Racine area that we're not aware of, go ahead and drop that in the comments. We'd love to hear about it. We're fine for
We might
reevaluating.
pop down there and try them out.
Yeah, Russ might be happy to go back and try another one and maybe add them to the evaluation. We have our evaluation forms. We can continue to use them, and we will hold on to them because there might be other places that we go and evaluate. So thanks for joining us, and have a great weekend. Bye for now.
Bye.
Yeah. Here we go.